Happy December 18th, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Razor Sharp Picks. Switch sides. I noticed that, Ryan, right? Like you're on that side now. So, hey, it works out. Maybe that's the luck that I need to switch. Maybe you don't want to be on that side.
It was a good week, man. Good week.
Ryan. It was a good week for you.
We both had good weeks. It was a good week picking.
We had a good week picking. Yeah. I had my normal week with the parlays and stuff. I think I've had 2 winning weeks maybe all season. But that doesn't matter. You know what? That doesn't matter. Ladies and gentlemen, happy December 18th. 1 week away from Christmas. So early Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everybody out there. And yeah, I'm very excited. Ryan, I do have to say, though, this past Saturday is always a rough day for me. So this Saturday was the Army-Navy game. And it's rough for me because it's the first time you really get a sense of, shoot, this is almost over, right? Like it's like, because Army Navy, rightfully so for the most part, they take over that day, but there's no other games. I mean, I think there was a bowl game this year, which is rare, but there's no other real games. And you have the college postseason, but that's the last college regular season game. And as someone who officiates high school football, it like has another when I'm done with high school football, I'm like, that means that the dominoes are starting to fall. And here we are, week 16 of the NFL season.
What used to be championship week for fantasy football that has now moved to week 17 with the additional game. But yeah, I mean, it's the end of fall, and you're heading into winter, and that means you're coming to the end of football. Fantasy football's winding down. College football's winding down. College basketball's not interesting yet, right? Like you don't know anything about these teams until like February. It doesn't start mattering until you get into conference play. So, this is a tough time of year, man. And I know, with the holidays coming up, there's a lot of stress and all that. But we both had good weeks last week picking straight up and against the spread both. Hopefully everybody, followed and tailed some of our picks and won some Christmas money. I know I came away with some Christmas money. I built some parlays with some of the picks that I had from last week. Not the player props, not a great week for player props, but built some parlays for our straight up picks. You see right there, Joe, 12-4 against the spread, 14-2 straight up. I went 13-3 and 15-1 respectively. So, huge weeks for us. We both get to 30 plus 30 games against the spread and plus 80 games on straight up. So, I mean, you can't beat that for a season run, man. Having a really solid season, and you put the Christmas tree over the wrong number there for your.
I'll move this.
For your season unit. Joe's on the struggle bus. He's probably broke. You're probably broken even though. If you take the units you played on games, the units that you're losing on your props and parlays, you're probably just about even. So those picks are helping you out.
Well, and I think I said this early in the year. Another good thing that's really helped me out is kind of like, if you're a poker player, you understand this, watching like streams or watching the World Series. Like you see that number. And listen, my plan this season was to help everyone win some money at #Nation. Obviously that to happen. But these aren't the only bets I'm making, right? Like I'm making other bets that are coming out a little bit better than minus, which it's hard to get worse than as I've done on this show. It really is hard. You have to be totally unlucky to do as badly as I've done. And I felt really unlucky at times, whether it be me calling for Justin Jefferson to have 2 touchdowns. He does it the next week. Me calling for Otten to have 30-plus receiving yards, which he's hit all but 1 game this season. Second pass of the game, he gets 11. I'm like, okay, here we go, and then doesn't get thrown to the rest of the game.
He finished with 24. Did he finish with 24 last week?
He did have 1 catch in junk time in the fourth.
That was rough, man.
Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you have a catch now when it doesn't matter? Just
you had Braylon Allen dialed in, and then all of a sudden Breece Hall's active at the last minute.
Active, absolutely. So we'll see how this messes up this weekend. Basically, I didn't do it, but pick Derrick Henry to get 2 rushing touchdowns this week. It's going to happen against the Steelers somehow. But yeah, I do want to say it's been a fun season, and even though it's a depressing time when you think about how close the end is, it's also an exciting time because there's a lot of great football to be played here in the next couple weeks. So I'm excited.
And it's becoming more frequent now. The NFL's starting to take over more days. They got Saturday this week. They got Christmas Day that they're wrestling away from the NBA. So we're gonna have, I think, 4 days of football next week, right? You got Christmas Day. I think there's a Saturday game, Sunday games, Monday night. This week you get 3 days of football. You get Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So the NFL does a decent job of kind of overtaking everybody else and muscling way in there. Now that college football is done, right? Because that agreement that they have with college football and high school football is that they won't do games on Fridays and Saturdays. And now that those seasons are done, the NFL is free to schedule how they want. So more NFL is never a bad thing.
Never a bad thing for us. Unfortunate for the players. Like you think about the Chiefs playing 3 games in 11 days. Like you don't want to be them, but that's okay. And we can also talk about, we could probably spend a whole show talking about what a great time to try steal away Christmas Day from the NBA with the NBA ratings tanking. It's a great time to try to do that. But before we get into the picks, Ryan, what I wanted to do, and again, we talked a little bit before on the air, should have been doing this all season long towards the second half, talk a little bit about what some of these games mean, right? And what they mean towards the playoffs. And there are a lot of games coming up here that have meaning, that have implications. And it really starts, even though this isn't the first game I'm seeing here, let's go down here first. It starts tomorrow on Prime with the Denver Broncos and the Chargers. Now, both these teams looked like they're going to make the playoffs, right? But again, we've talked about this. You want to avoid that 7th seed. You want to avoid going to Buffalo or going to Kansas City or going to Pittsburgh if, the chips fall the right way for the Broncos. So with a win tomorrow, the Denver Broncos, or a tie, the Denver Broncos clinch a playoff spot. The Chargers clinch a playoff spot with a win and a couple teams, the Dolphins and Colts, losing. Again, if you look on, I think it's NFL.com, they go over playoff scenarios. Both these teams above 70%. But still,
these are your 7 and 8 seeds, probably. These are your 7 and 8 seeds. So,
or 6, 7 seeds, you mean, right?
6, 7.
6, 7 seeds,
6,
right?
7. Because the 5 will go to whoever doesn't win the North. Yep.
Right. Correct. But big game tomorrow night with the Denver Broncos and the LA Chargers. And again, division matchup. I think the NFL this year did a good job making sure that divisional matchups on Thursday night. I really liked it when the NFL decided, last week of the season should be all divisional matchups. Mm-hmm. And I thought that added excitement, especially you think about that Detroit Lions, Minnesota Vikings game, what that could mean towards at the last week of the season. Like that's huge.
That's for the 1 seed. That's for the 1 seed.
Right. Last year, Miami, Buffalo, right? Like that was a huge game and everyone had a great time. So because if you look at the AFC, the playoffs are pretty much set minus some seeding, right? Like, and that's unfortunate. That's not as exciting. But no matter how much is figured out, there's still excitement that last week of the season. And that's always fun for me. Then you look at the Saturday slate games, 2 games on Saturday, and we'll talk about all these games, of course. The Chiefs can clinch home field and the number 1 seed if they win and the Bills lose. But I don't see the Bills losing to the New England, and we'll talk about that game, of course. The Steelers can clinch the AFC North with a win against the Baltimore Ravens. Yeah. Baltimore clinches a playoff berth with a win. So a lot on the line in that game as far as clinching scenarios. So those are the 3 big AFC games when it comes to playoff clinching scenarios. So we'll talk about those 3 games, especially here, and then we'll go on from there going into Sunday. Like you said, full slate again, right? No bye weeks, no more bye weeks. All that stuff's gone. So you went 15-1. Let's try to get 16-0 this week. Yeah. I think we have a couple games this season. Different. Yeah, you already did it once, so now it's my turn. But I know we have a couple differences this week, but we'll see how it goes. And we'll start with that Thursday night matchup, the game between the Denver Broncos and the Chargers. The way the Chargers played last week just looked really bad. And Tampa's a good team. I'm not trying to take anything away from them. But I was really expecting the Chargers put more of a fight in that game. And after kind of a demoralizing loss, if you ask me, it's tough to come back on a short week, even though it is at home. Denver is looking really good. To me, Denver's just getting better and better and better as the season goes on. Denver's a team, as a Bills fan, I don't want to see in wild card weekend, because Denver wouldn't mind coming to Buffalo. Like, it's not like a big difference for them as far as weather is concerned. And we see this going the same way. We see the Denver Broncos winning this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I think Denver's the better football team right now. Obviously, sitting at 9-5. The Chargers have lost 2 in a row, 3 out of their last 4. Ever since that J.K. Dobbins injury, I mean, they have not looked like the same football team on the offensive side of the football. Justin Herbert's struggling. I think he has a bounce back game this week against this Denver Broncos secondary, who's allowed a lot of points. We'll talk about that in the props and parlays. But I think Denver's just too good. Bo Nix is playing, pretty good football. It seems like he's maybe regressed back to the mean a little bit in terms of his play. But I like Denver in this one to go on the road. I like him to throw the ball all over the field. And I actually like the over on this one. I think that both these teams are going to put up some points on Thursday night, which doesn't happen a lot, but I wouldn't be surprised if this one turns into like 27-24, something like that. Pretty tight game.
Yeah, I said this week, like 4 of the NFL season. I know you agree with me. In these primetime matchups, just pick the under. You're going to win more times than you lose. And, if you tell me at the beginning of the season I can do something and win 58% of the time, then I'm just going to do that and keep doing it, right? And then, some of these games you think are going to go over and going under, some of them, and vice versa, right? Like, you just never know sometimes. And it's scary how close Vegas gets with some of these, isn't it? Yeah. Like, just some of these, it's just like, this is going to be 41 to 44 points. You just know it. It's just like, they weren't close on the Bills game last week, but I don't think anyone could. No. It would have looked pretty bad if Vegas was like, the over-under is 90. Let's just do that. So they avoided that, but most of the time they're pretty accurate. Could definitely see this one going over. As you said, the Denver's passing defense not as good as I think it was earlier in the season as well. And Justin Herbert is, again, if this Charger team was a little bit better, you could be hearing Justin Herbert. He only has 2 picks all season. Like, you could be hearing Justin Herbert talks about maybe, if he didn't get hurt, miss a couple games, whatever the case might be, being MVP candidate as well. But that's just not the case. But we will take the Broncos in this game. Going to the Saturday games, 2 really great Saturday games, right? I'm looking forward to both these games. Patrick Mahomes, it does look like he has a possibility of playing, right? He was a full participant in walkthroughs yesterday. I didn't hear what happened today, but it seemed like he
was a full participant again.
He was a full participant again today. So it seems like he will be leaning towards playing. But something that struck me, and this is kind of what was in my ear as I was making this pick, is what Mahomes said yesterday when they were talking to him about it. And I'm not going to quote him verbatim, but he said something along the lines of like, we have a little room, right? Like, I don't need to play. Things like I'm like, what is his mindset going into this game? Injury aside, whatever. Like, if he goes into an NFL football game feeling like, okay, we don't need this one, that's when a team like the Texans, a playoff team, can jump on top of you and get that victory. So that's kind of why I was leaning towards the Texans, simply because of, not only is he hobbled a little bit, even if he does play, it just doesn't seem like he's in the right headspace to lead his team to victory in this one. I think as a Bills fan, I'm leaning towards, I want Kansas City to win this game. And then no matter what happens in that Pittsburgh game, the Bills get a bye somewhere, right? Because week 18, whether it be week 18 or we get the bye in the playoffs. But that's something we can talk about much later on. But I'd like the Texans to win this matchup and kind of cement themselves. Because right now, a lot of people are like, the Texans are there, right? Like they're someone has to win that division. I think that they have more to prove in this game, and I think they get it done.
Yeah, I mean, Houston clinched last week, right? So they're the AFC South champs. They're probably going to wind up as the 4 seed in the playoffs. We kind of talk about not a lot to play for a team. There's not a lot to play for right now for Houston. The problem is Houston's only played 2 games that weren't in a dome all season, and it's going to be under 25 degrees in Kansas City, probably snowing from what they're calling on the weather. And the Kansas City Chiefs are really good against the run, right? And that's where the Houston Texans make their bread and butter, is Joe Mixon, carrying the ball 20, 22 times a game, opening things up. And then that allows Stroud to go to guys like Nico Collins, Tank Dell downfield. And I don't think Houston is a great football team. They're certainly, they're a good team. You don't win a division on accident. And I don't think the Chiefs are a great football team. So I think this is a game of teams that Kansas City, they don't have a lot to lose. And you could argue, is the 1 seed better or is the 2 seed better? Obviously the 1 seed, you get the bye. But the 1 seed also has a collision course right now set up with the Baltimore Ravens in round 2. And that's not ideal, right? Like, would you rather be the 1 seed and then you get Baltimore coming to your house in the divisional round? Or would you rather get the 2 seed, probably wind up playing Denver or San Diego or Los Angeles in wild card weekend hosting, and then hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers in the divisional round, right? Like, which is the better path for you? So, and if you're the Bills and you can rest your starters in week 18, you don't need the bye, right? In order to rest your starters and kind of prepare for that. So there's a lot at play. But I just think Houston, I don't think they're a very good football team right now. They have a lot to prove. They want to prove that they're the cream of the AFC. And I think they're the 5th best team in the AFC right now, even though they're going to wind up as the 4 seed. So I like Kansas City to take care of business. If Mahomes goes, I feel great about this pick. Even if it's not Mahomes, I think Andy Reid with Nick Foles is probably going to be able to do enough.
To put Carson Wentz, but Carson
Wentz. Philadelphia quarterback, right?
right. Well, it doesn't
his name here. Yeah.
You could say, you give
Teddy Bridgewater, right?
Exactly. I was gonna say Mario, but it does. Like, you give Andy Reid a capable quarterback, and he's gonna make you look like gold. Like, that's how I feel. No disrespect to Patrick Mahomes. I think that Patrick Mahomes is one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever do it. But yes, I think that Andy Reid is just an offensive genius, maybe the best offensive-minded coach we've ever seen. Yeah. And I think that look at his playoff resume. He took Alex Smith there a bunch. He took Donovan McNabb there a bunch. He took.
All right, no Donovan McNabb slander.
We all know how much I love McNabb.
Donovan was that dude.
What was that dude? No. But I do have a question. I think we went over this with Paul a few weeks back. Like, to you as a Bills fan, is it important to you that we beat, if it comes to this, we beat Kansas City in the playoffs? Because I think about it and I'm like, if Kansas City is as weak as everyone seems to think they are, they're not making it to the AFC Championship game. So whether the Bills have a 1 seed or 2 seed doesn't matter, because we'll be hosting AFC Championship weekend anyway.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you get to the Super Bowl, it doesn't matter the path. Right. It doesn't matter who you beat. Doesn't matter what happens. If you're in the Super Bowl, that's that happens at the end of the day. If you're the 2 seed, I mean, does Kansas City match up really well in Kansas City with the weather that you're probably going to have against the Baltimore Ravens in the divisional round? No, I don't think they do. I think that's a problem game for Kansas City. I think it's a problem game for anybody, right? Like, Baltimore in the playoffs has missed a running game in Lamar's tenure, and now they've got Derrick Henry, right? Like, that's not something that is to be forgotten heading into the playoffs. But I think this Kansas City team is ripe for the picking. The only, obviously, their fans will say, well, the Bills, if you get to the Super Bowl, if you win the Super Bowl, well, you didn't beat the Chiefs to do it. It's like, okay, that's fine, right? Like, it doesn't matter. It does not matter at all. So just get there. And whatever path you like the best, if you want to sit your starters in week 18, if you have a shot at the bye, but you prefer this 2 seed, and hey, I'm all for it.
I would actually be more, because people forget this, and people forget for the right reasons. Like you said, it doesn't matter the path. Peyton Manning's first Super Bowl, he didn't have to go through Tom Brady.
That's right.
Peyton Manning's first Super Bowl victory was the year that he got that. Tom Brady went out week 1. Matt Castle won 10, 11 games, and they still missed the playoffs somehow, but didn't matter. And then Peyton Manning was like, thank you for the Super Bowl, to set up a confrontation later when he played for Denver, where then he was able to get over that hump. So I would love it even. I'm not saying I wouldn't love to beat Kansas City. Sure, I would. But imagine the Bills winning the Super Bowl this year, not having to go through Kansas City, and then next year having a showdown in the playoffs between the Chiefs and Bills. I think that would be exciting too. So doesn't matter to me. I'm going to be crying like a baby either way, no matter how the Bills win the Super Bowl. It's going to be happening. So I'm looking forward to it. But we do have another game on Saturday. And again, equal importance in this one, if not more so, as you talk about the Baltimore Ravens at home against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Listen, I look at this game and, again, we both see Baltimore. Pittsburgh won the earlier matchup. And when I look at these two teams, it doesn't matter records. I'm going with a split. Like every season, I'm like, these two are split, and it does not matter who's at quarterback, who's the defense, whatever. Reason why I picked for the spread is simply due to history between these two teams, right? Like for a while there, how many one-score games between these two teams? It's incredible that these two teams play as closely as they do. And same thing for the under. I know that these defenses aren't as good as some of these other rivalries have been like throughout the years, but I still think that Tomlin and Harbaugh know each other's tendencies enough. That's going to be a close one.
Yeah, I mean, historically for Lamar Jackson, this matchup is not good for him, right? He's 1-4 in his last 5, and he's 2-5 in his career against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So not an ideal stat line, which is weird, right? Because I looked at that and I was like, Lamar's been in the league for quite a while. He's only faced this Steelers team 7 times in his entire career. So that was something that I found interesting. But 1-4 in his last 5, is not great. However, this Steelers team looks way different when George Pickens isn't on the field. And Pickens did not practice again today. It sounds like he's not going to go. They know they're in the playoffs. I think they're resting Pickens. They can afford to drop this game and still win out, and they win the division, right? They control their destiny even if they lose on Saturday. Now they got to beat the Chiefs on Christmas Day, to control their own destiny. But I think from a health standpoint, I think they're going to let Pickens come back at his own pace, and they say,
sure,
hey, you know what? 2 seed or 5 seed, like not a huge difference to us. Our team travels in the playoffs the way that they're built. But I think Baltimore sends a message on this one. I mean, they've looked better, albeit against the Giants, but their offense looks like they've kind of turned a corner. They did it without Henry last week. I think they're going to lean on Henry this week. And I think this is going to be a game that I think Baltimore tries to send a message that, the AFC North isn't done yet. Like we're still here.
Yeah, and it will lead to a lot more excitement, in the next coming weeks. Again, because next week you have Baltimore versus Houston and Kansas City versus Pittsburgh. Leads to a lot more exciting matchups next week, as well as these AFC playoff teams start beating up on each other. Which honestly, as I look as a Bills fan with Patriots, Jets, Patriots, I'm like, go ahead, guys, knock each other around for a little bit.
Tossing knives into the center of the circle, right? Tossing the knives
go ahead,
in there.
Guys, have a good time. Whatever you want to do. So those are the Thursday and Saturday games. Like Brian said at the beginning, NFL doing a good job sprinkling games everywhere they can to try to get more eyeballs on more of the action. And those are 3 games when it comes to playoff implications you really don't want to miss if you're an NFL fan, if you're a fan of football. Coming into some of the Sunday games, Ryan puts this one on the screen. Now this one, all of a sudden you have excitement because Kirk Cousins is no longer the quarterback of the Atlanta Falcons. It's going to be very interesting to see how the rookie has his debut. But to Ryan and I, it doesn't matter. They're still beating the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, I think the offense is actually going to see a little bit of a bump because of Penix. I think he's going to throw to Drake London. I think he's going to throw to Kyle Pitts. I think they're going to have a conscious effort to run the football with Bijan Robinson. The defense is no joke, right? Like their defense is solid. And DeVito's not a very good quarterback. If they decide to make a switch, Drew Lock's not a very good quarterback, right? Like the Giants the Giants have nothing going for them other than the fact that they're the first pick in the draft right now, right? And that's the only thing they have going for them. So they're kind of like, okay, Shedeur Sanders, like, does he want to come to New York? Sounds like Deion doesn't want him to go. So do we shift and go Cam Ward or, any of these guys that are coming out? But to have their pick, right? Like the last time the Giants had their pick of quarterbacks, they wound up with Phillip Rivers that turned into Eli Manning, which worked out pretty well for them, right? So, I think they are focused on what it looks like for next season. I think Brian Dable's a lame duck quarterback or a lame duck coach. I think Tommy DeVito is trying out for backup spots next season. Again, this team doesn't have much going for it. Falcons are in the midst of a push for the NFC South. They're trying to lock that division up if they can. They're still within striking distance of the Bucs, with a game to play between those two, week 18, speaking of playoff implications. And I think the rookie's going to give them a bump. I think their offense is going to play better. Defense is fine. I think this one turns into, this is going to be like a 13, 17-point win.
Yeah, I think this is a big victory by the Falcons. But yeah, it's a big difference between what we saw on Thursday and Saturday, and then leading off with this game, going on to the next one. There are some, and this one doesn't fall into this category, but
it's not bad. I mean, this one's not bad. It's not a bad little game here. You know,
there are going to be some good matchups here on Sunday as well. But this one can turn into a good one, and I've said this before, and I'll say this again, even though I picked the Lions to cover the spread, and I see that you have the Lions cover, or the Bears covering at home. The Bears against divisional rivals this year, pretty good. Like they keep it close, and you could see that this season. And it was even after the Washington game where things have been starting to tail off for the Bears. They still keep these games close.
Yeah, and the Lions got punched in the mouth last week, right? Like the Lions had been on a 11-game winning streak, I think it was, by the time they ran into the Bills. That game last week the score was not indicative of how close that game was. Anytime you've got a team kicking an onside kick with 12 minutes left down 10, like that's desperation mode, right? Like that's a team that's getting the brakes beaten off of it. And those types of games, it was a Josh Allen show last week, but it was a physical game, right? Like the Bills ran the football a lot. Defensively, the Bills did not allow the Lions to run the football. It was a very physical type of game. More injuries for the Lions. The Lions are starting guys on defense that probably aren't NFL caliber players, right? Like you don't get this late in the season, this deep on the roster, into the practice squad, into guys off the street, without playing guys that probably are arena football, like XFL type guys in the summer. So all that said, the Bears seem to be playing better offensively. They can run the ball with DeAndre Swift if they need to. They're doing a pretty good job. Keenan Allen seems to be coming into his own. DJ Moore is starting to get involved. Caleb Williams has something to prove at this point. This Lions team, man, they're beat up. And without David Montgomery, you don't know what that running attack is going to look like. I like the Bears to keep it close at least. I don't know that this is going to be necessarily, a close game. This is maybe like a 10-point game, and the Bears score a late touchdown that turns it into a 3-point football game. They try the onside kick and lose. But I like the Bears sneaky to kind of keep this a little bit close on Sunday.
Yeah, and I'll talk about more of what you just said when we get into the Bills game and that prediction as well. But yeah, this Lions team is so beat up. I did see something that showed like the starting defense for the Lions, if it was just the IR defense. It's better than some of the defenses out there right now. You look at the list of just the players on IR, and I have a friend who is a Lions fan, and I just look at the list of Lions players on IR. I'm like, yeah, you guys got hit hard with the injury bug this year, and it's unfortunate. But it happens, unfortunately it happens to teams every single year. And it just seems to be the Lions this year. Going to the next 1:00 game and this is one of those games that could, kind of like the last game, could be exciting, in my opinion. The Browns just don't seem to be fighting for much at this point. They seem to have lost any sense of, and I don't even actually know is quarterback playing. Oh my gosh!
It's Dorian Thompson-Robinson.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that kind of says something too as to why Cincy, we both feel, is going to kind of run away with this thing. I think Chase might have a huge game again. I think that connection's getting stronger as the season goes on. So give me the Bengals, but you never know. These AFC North Division matchups can always be tricky.
Yeah, DTR at quarterback. They've switched away from Jameis Winston. He's officially been benched. Nick Chubb went on IR, season-ending IR, so he's done for the year. That offense, is going to struggle. They're in the race for the 1 seed. And then the Bengals have an outside shot at the playoffs, right? Like they need a lot of help in front of them, but a win keeps their playoff hopes alive. It's a team that needs it versus a team that I don't even know if they want it. So I'll take the team with the better quarterback, the better offense, and the need to win a football game. So I'll take Cincinnati, and I'll take this one. Probably you'll see it a few times on Red Zone, and then they'll be done covering.
Right. And I will show that real quick as well as we look here at NFL.com. I did pull this up. It talks about in the hunt. We see up here 7 teams have clinched a playoff spot. That's not necessarily they've clinched that spot in the playoffs, but they have clinched a playoff spot. And you look here, you look at the Bengals currently sitting at 5%. Again, like you said, not much. But if they lose this game, less than 1% chance, probably eliminated if they lose this game. If they win, it does bump them up a little bit. And they still play the Steelers. They still play some of these playoff teams that could really help them out as well. So we will see what happens there. But to your point, yes, they need this victory. So, and like you said, Cleveland, for all we know, they're ready for trying to get that 1 seed. They're praying the Giants and Raiders win one more game so that way they have a better shot at the 1 seed. Moving on to the next matchup. Again, these division matchups can be tricky, but for the last two, unlike the Bears one, the better team's at home. And so you would expect the home team, the better team, to come out win this matchup. I expect a revenge game here from Jonathan Taylor. I think he's heard enough about what happened last week at the 1 yard line. I expect him to come out, run the ball hard, and not drop the ball at the 1 this time.
Yeah. I think Jonathan Taylor's going to have a massive game. Tennessee's allowing a lot of yards on the ground. I like Jonathan Taylor to go over 100 this week. There, and don't forget the Titans have made a quarterback change. So Will Levis is out. Mason Rudolph is in. We've seen what that offense looks like with him, and it's about the same as it looks with Will Levis in a quarterback. So give me Indy, give me the home team, give me the team that still has an outside shot at the playoffs. I'll take them to win.
Yeah, when you're struggling between Mason Rudolph and Will Levis, you know you got problems at the quarterback position.
You got bigger problems with a 3-11 record if those are your quarterbacks you're trying to pick from.
Again, you look down depth chart, like, nope, back to the top, nope, okay. So now we go on to the next matchup here, and this is a non-conference matchup. A lot of social media attention being played about this. Aaron Rodgers having some issues with Clark, I think it is, going back and forth on social media. So that's fun to listen to. But that's the only fun thing about this Jets team this year. Like, nothing fun. I heard Ryan Clark say on the air, this is a team that needs to win out to have the same record as they had last year. Like, how sad is that? Like, that's how bad this team has been this year. And, they win last week, and I hear Jets fans like, oh, they're finding their stride. First of all, if you're finding your stride in week 15, you got problems. Second of all, if you're finding your stride against Jacksonville, you got problems. Well,
if you're finding your stride in week 15 because you just got back to 500 or up or a game above 500, like, that's a different story.
Right.
But if you're finding your stride after you've already been eliminated from the playoffs, like, who gives a shit, right? Like,
as Bills fans, absolutely are. Yay!
Then they're done that, right? Like, I've justified a week 15 win when my team is 4-9. Like, I've justified that before. Been there, man. Like, I've lived in your shoes, but it's not a fun place to live.
It's not a fun place to live. And that was like year 13 of the drought. So come on. Which inherently so, the Jets are on like year 14 of their drought. So it works out about the same. But
I'm surprised this line's not worse. I'll be honest with you. I don't know what Vegas is doing here. I don't know how you could look at that Rams team and what they've done over the last few weeks against Buffalo and then against San Francisco and then say, this team's only 3 points better than the New York Jets. Like, I don't understand what they're doing here. This to me is easy money. Like, throw money at the Rams, to the moon with the Rams this week. I think this one's going to be this one will be a 2-possession game before this thing's over. I think the Rams are just going to absolutely mollywop. The only thing I can think is because it's a West Coast team going east and they tend not to travel super well.
Right.
But I mean, it's Stafford, right? Like, it's McVay. This team's going to be ready to play, and I think they're going to be fine because they're still in the running for that NFC West division.
Yeah, and now that, like, yes, they are a West team coming east, but they're on, extra 3 days rest.
Right.
Since they played
Thursday last week. Yeah.
So you have that extra 3 days rest going into it. I think they're going to do just fine. I agree with you. If you're putting money on this game, I'd like to bet the spread. You can even move the spread up and get more money out of this one. Move it up to 6.5, and you're probably getting plus money. Like, you're working the plus money, and that's what it's all about. So yeah, give us the Rams, give us the over. Like, I think that the Rams, after what happened last week where they only scored field goals, like, probably want to get that offense showing going, and I think they're going to. So give us the Rams in this one. Moving to the next matchup, a divisional matchup. And this should be a good one. If you're watching a game 1 o'clock, this is the 1 o'clock to watch. And this is the first time. So I don't know if you guys know this, if you guys who watch, whether live or after, Ryan and I really don't see each other's picks until the show, right? Like, this is when we first see our picks, actually. I know Ryan puts this together, but he's just putting letters together, so he doesn't really consciously think about what I'm doing here. At least for me, this is the first time I'm seeing picks. So when I first picked this matchup and sent it to Ryan, who sets up the slides, I was like, okay, this one's probably where we're going to be different. But to my surprise, lo and behold, no, we both agree here. The Commanders will probably come on top in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I like the way that Commanders are playing. They're 5-2 at home this season. Obviously, Philadelphia is 6-1 on the road. But if you look at who they've played on the road, I mean, they haven't had a tough road schedule, really. I like Washington in this one. This one is, if Washington wants to keep their NFC, East hopes alive, they have to win this football game. The Eagles clinch the division with a win. So if Washington wants to keep even their slim chances alive, they got to win this football game. And this is a game that, Jaden Daniels, I think he's going to come to play. I think this offense has enough firepower with Terry McLaurin and the way that they're playing right now. Philadelphia, yeah, they've been playing better as of late, but I'm still not sold on what this offense looks like. Saquon Barkley's a little banged up from what it sounds like. I don't think Jalen Hurts is a great quarterback. I think he, if they put some pressure on him, he looks human. So yeah, I like Washington in this one at home. Give me the points and, give me them straight up in this one too.
Yeah, I don't like, there's something about the Eagles, like even with this win streak going on, even 12-2, even with how good they've looked, you still hear all this locker room chatter, right? And it's just like, if you're a 12-2 team, the last thing you need is drama off the field, right? Like, you want everything to be all guns blazing, getting ready for that playoff push. The Lions just kind of came back down to earth a little bit, and you're hoping you can take over that 1 seed. But no, all we're hearing about is, issues with the coach, issues with the wide receiving core, issues here and there. It's like, okay, something's going to give here. And this might be a team. This Eagles team, to me, is getting set up to be like that first round playoff upset that no one saw coming. And depending on the matchup, that's scary. And of course, we will be with you. Raise Sharpe Picks will be with you for the playoffs as well. So we'll see who they play, and we'll go from there. But yeah, we both like Washington in this game. I think Jaden Daniels has a big game too, and the Washington Commanders keep their slim division hopes alive. Speaking of slim playoff hopes, you look at the Arizona Cardinals, still right there, right? They're still a game? I think they're only a game back at this point.
They're a game back,
Rams. But when you give me the Rams, Seahawks, Cardinals, that's the order I put them in. As far as they have not. The Cardinals just haven't been consistent enough for me, and that's why the record is 7-7. But still, they're playing the Panthers. I expect them to win this game. But at the same time, I just don't think that they have what it takes to jump in the playoff picture.
Yeah, Panthers had a really rough game last week, right? Like I think they were everybody's darling picks last week, and they wound up getting steamrolled by the Cowboys of all teams. So I do expect a little bit of a bounce back from them. I don't think it's enough to beat the Cardinals. Again, the Cardinals have to have this football game. Their only path to the playoffs is with a divisional title. So they've got to keep pace here. And I think Kyler Murray, he's playing pretty well right now. Like, this offense is okay at this point. Trey McBride has been a revelation at tight end for them the last couple of seasons. I think they've just got enough to get this one done. I just don't think it's going to be anything more than like a field goal at the end to win it, or something to that effect.
Yeah, I think this will be it. If you are a fan of watching close football games, I think this one might interest you, but I think this one's going to be close because it's ugly. So, you'll watch the last 2 minutes because it's a close game. But at the same time, you're like, there's no need to. And I also think about Bryce Young, and last week being his first game as a favorite, and after almost 2 full seasons, the pressure that might put on you to finally be the favorite, right? And feel like that pressure, maybe even unnecessarily, as just at 3-10, but now he's the underdog again, and so he feels a little less pressure to just go out there and play ball.
Yeah. Yep.
So moving on, I think we're starting with the 4:00 games now, right? And this 4:00 slate does get a little more interesting, and I think this is a great way to start that 4:00 slate with the Minnesota Vikings sitting at 12-2. This is one that you and I see differently. I think the Kenneth Walker not playing is a factor in this game. I'm not saying it's not, but I think Chardonnay has done a decent job in his place as well. I think the Seahawks are a tough team at home, and the Minnesota Vikings, even though I've liked what I've seen with the connection of Darnold to Jefferson past couple weeks, right? It seems like they've gotten that back. For some, like all season long, seems like they put together 3 or 4 really good games, and they have 1 or 2, rough games, and then they pull, even though they still win a couple of those rough games, and then like I just feel like it's a roller coaster with them. Again, roller coaster 12-2 would be, I want that roller coaster. Yeah. But at the same time, again, with the Seattle team, it's a must-win situation. Now you can argue it's a must-win for Minnesota if they want to, stay in that divisional race, stay in that number 1 seed in the NFC race, but they have their playoff spot locked up. Seattle's still fighting for that.
Yeah, I mean, Minnesota controls the destiny to the 1 seed, right? If Minnesota wins out, which includes a Week 18 win against Detroit, the Minnesota Vikings are going to be your 1 seed. They own the tiebreakers over Philadelphia, and then they'll have the head-to-head over Detroit. So they have, if they want it, they have the 1 seed to play for. The Seattle Seahawks, again, they have to keep pace in the divisional round. They'll know they're in the division. They're going to know what happens in those 1 o'clock windows before this one. But the difference to me here is the Geno Smith injury, right? Like if it's Sam Howell at quarterback, like this line is going to jump. It's going to be a touchdown line by the time the game kicks off. If Geno plays, my concern is what does Geno Smith look like after that knee injury last week, right? Like how mobile is he? Because that's a big part of his game. Couple that with no Kenneth Walker. Zach Charbonnet, he's been good, but he's not Kenneth Walker. Right. So I think that's and the other problem is when you look at the Seattle Seahawks at home, the knee-jerk reaction is, Seattle at home, that's a good team. They're 3-5 at home this season, right? Like they're not playing well at home. Minnesota travels well. We've seen that as Bills fans. So I think this is a game that, if Minnesota wants it, there's no reason that they can't go out and win that football game. I think it's going to be made easier depending on Geno Smith's status. And I know he was limited in practice today. We'll see what practice looks like tomorrow, which is really the big day for teams at Thursday practice. So we'll see. But I like Minnesota in this one. I think they've got before, and I think it's one of you would see the same thing in the Bills if the Chiefs were to lose, right? Like Minnesota had their chance, and now the Bills kicked that door open for them last week with their win against Detroit. And now Minnesota's like, well, if we want the 1 seed, let's just go get it.
And what you said about Seattle is also true of Minnesota too, right? Like they will know what happened with Detroit and Philadelphia prior to this matchup. So, and that could be a good thing or a bad thing. You see, because we both have Philly losing. If let's say the Bears somehow pull off an upset, Minnesota could say, hey, this is our shot. Like, let's go get it. Like, we have that edge now. Or both teams lose, they could say we can lay off a little bit, and last thing you want to do is have a team scoreboard watching during an actual game. So we'll see how it turns out. Moving to the next 4:25 matchup.
Whoa. And quick coverage of this one.
Interesting. I thought that after last week, I thought that all the 4 o'clock games were going to be 4:25 for the rest of the season. Interesting that the Seattle Minnesota game, which might be the best 4 o'clock game that they have going, is actually 4:05. But
and I think it's because it's the only one on Fox. I think it's the national. Right. This is the last week of the national 4 o'clock games.
Yeah, you might be right. So, all right, moving on, you got the Jaguars Raiders, like you said, quick coverage. I don't even care that we picked differently on this one. Like, I don't care. You win this one, I'll give it to you. I don't care. Like, I really just don't care. I think the Raiders defense played really well last week in a loss, and I think the Raiders keep it up. And I just think that the Jaguars will turn the ball over a couple times, maybe even throw some money down on a Raiders defensive touchdown. But that's it. That's all I got.
Yeah, I mean, the Jags were in that game last week, right? And like they were playing well enough to win that football game against the Jets. So if it wasn't for that broken coverage, they beat the Jets last week. So we'll see. I mean, nobody really cares about this football game other than maybe the fans, and the fans might even be upset if their
first round draft. Yeah, they want that number 1 draft pick. The team that wins this game is going to upset a lot of people.
And even Vegas is like, we don't know, like both teams are negative money. Like, who cares? Either team can win.
Don't care. No one's betting this game. Like Vegas is like no one's wasting money on this.
You have a real look up the 1-800 number for your state if you're gambling if you're betting on Jags Raiders this week.
I can't wait to see that
help.
person. Like watch Barstool Sports guys like, come on, like okay, relax. Going into the season, this game looked like it could be a really interesting matchup, right? Like you talk about the 49ers. No one expected the 49ers to be 6-8, basically out of playoff contention at this point. And same thing with the Dolphins. When we talk about the AFC East at the beginning of the season, everyone thought it was going to be Bills, Dolphins, Jets in some order, but it just didn't turn out that way. Both these teams 6-8. Both these teams try and keep their slim playoff hopes alive. And some might say, well, Miami could win. Right now Miami's the healthier team, but San Fran to me just doesn't matter. They seem to play hard. They seem to put things together. And again, they're coming off a little bit extra rest as well. And I think that will benefit them, and they'll have a game plan for the Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll do just enough. It's Tyreek Hill sending out cryptic tweets like the Miami Dolphins were in a fight last week. That tends not to bode well for teams. I just think that I don't think either of these teams is very good. I just think San Francisco will do enough because at the end of the day, give me coaching. And I think that, the guy on one sideline is better than the guy on the other sideline, and I'll take that guy.
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely. Surprised, honestly, and maybe I don't have my ear to it as much as other people. I'm actually surprised that McDaniel's job isn't mentioned more as far as being on a hot seat.
It should be. Yeah, it absolutely should be getting mentioned more than it is.
But other than in some Miami circles, I'm not hearing it much at all. I'm like, this guy just hasn't proven anything to me. But again, as Bills fans, keep them. Tua, great. Yeah, they're wonderful people. I'm sure they're wonderful. Moving on to the next matchup, the matchup that Bills fans will be excited to watch. And again, I'll be right here live on #sports for a game that won't be on national television, like the one of 3 games the Bills have had this year that isn't somewhere on national television, whether it be the Fox game of the week or CBS game of the week or on primetime. So I will be right here about half hour before kickoff for the game between the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots. They made me have to switch up my son's birthday time when they switched this to a 4:25 game. My son's birthday is on Saturday, so we'll celebrate it at 1 o'clock instead of 4:25. That's fine. But we will enjoy this one. And again, at this point, I think the Buffalo Bills are just going to, pad Josh Allen's MVP stats in these type of games. The next 3 games, to me, at least 2 games, if not the 3 games, make sure they stay close enough to that 1 seed because that's the overall goal for this Bills team. But can they achieve that? They might know that or have a good idea of that by this time if the Chiefs do pull out a win on Friday or Saturday, I forget. But still, give me the Bills to close things out. You will see this from me and probably from Ryan as well these next 3 weeks at home, especially where they're undefeated this year. They want to keep that intact. Give me the Bills.
Yep. I like the Bills in this one too. Patriots aren't very good. Yep. Drake May isn't great. This is just just everything is bad with the Patriots right now. And then they got to come on the road to Buffalo. Hasn't worked out well for many teams over the last couple of seasons. So give me the Bills. I think they're the better team. They got the better quarterback. They got the better coach, offense, everything. I think this one's an easy football game. If you're watching it on Red Zone because you're not a Bills fan necessarily, you probably aren't going to see this much on Red Zone. It'll just be replays that Scott Hansen will show. Watch this big play by the Bills, and that'll be it.
Watch Josh Allen again. And then on Monday, you'll see another poster or meme or tweet or whatever that says, Josh Allen, for the first time ever, blah, 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 blah.
First player to ever insert random stat here. Yes.
It's been 4 weeks in a row where on Monday I'm like, there he is again.
Did you see the one of the ones from this week was the ball that he threw to Keon Coleman, where it was 62 air yards or something like that. They said it was the fastest ball that traveled 60 air yards or more in since they've tracked it in next gen stats.
What's fun about that is when I watch like NFL Network or I watch analysts on whatever the channel is, and they act surprised still, and I'm like, no, that sounds right. Like that sounds legit.
Right.
Like Like, okay, that sounds good. So yeah, that's our guy, and we love Josh Allen. As I've now taught my son, whose birthday on Saturday, to say is, "Give me Josh Allen. Give me Josh Allen. I'm taking him all day long." And then speaking of something that I won't take all day long, and I probably again won't be staying up for this game either. Again, early bedtime on Sunday, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who should win this game easily, go up against the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas. Hopefully the sun isn't in anyone's eyes when they're there. Hopefully it won't be because it's a night game, but you never know. I just think that the Buccaneers, again, trying to stay away, not stay away, but keep Atlanta down in the NFC South. Tampa Bay needs this game more. Dallas got a win last week. Good for them, but they're still not a good team.
Yeah, Dallas isn't a good team at home, especially 1-6 on the season. Yeah. Tampa, they're in the driver's seat for the NFC South. I think we picked Atlanta to win. So if Atlanta wins, Tampa has to kind of keep pace at that point to stay a game up. And I think the Bucs are a good enough football team, right? Like Mike Evans showed out last week. I'm not sure what answers the Dallas Cowboys are going to have defensively for Baker and the Bucs. And I think they're just a better football team. So not only that, but I think it's going to be a sneaky defensive type of game. 48.5 is a lot of points for this game. Yeah. I think I wouldn't be surprised if the under hits.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying. I think that since I didn't bet him this week, Otten's gonna have at least 220, like 3 touchdowns. Like he's gonna ball.
He's gonna get 34 yards. The 30 that he 4 to make up for the 4 he didn't have last week to get you to 30. So
there you go. And then we have the Monday night game. I think it's back to 1, right? Back to 1.
Last week was the last week of 2.
Last with the 2.
Biggest spread of the weekend.
Yeah, just barely covers the Bills line, and that's why I picked the Saints. I look at 2 14-point spreads. I'm like, they're not both going to cover, right? Like that seems ridiculous if NFL has them both covering. And I know I was going to pick the Bills to cover. So I could see, I don't even know how I see this happening. I honestly don't, Ryan, but that's okay. 14.5.
This to me is like a 17-20 point.
Yeah, like give me the 14.5, and I'll just say Green Bay shows mercy. I don't know. Like they nailed the ball starting in the third quarter, and we're okay.
Yeah, this one might be like a 35-13 type of win, and that's how the over hits. Is that Green Bay scores like 77% of the over. New Orleans isn't very good. Green Bay is playing really well. Green Bay they don't have a chance at the North title unless they're going to lose all the games in front of them. Right. But they're in the playoffs, so they're fighting for seeding right now. They want to try to be higher than the 6th seed if they can get there. But I don't think that New Orleans is very good, and that's the difference here.
Yeah, I do believe at this point that Green Bay's only hope to winning the North would include a tie between the Lions and Vikings the last week of the season.
Both teams need to lose their 2 games that they have before that, and then tie week 18. And if Green Bay wins out, then they would win the North.
When you're 3 weeks away and you're banking on that,
you're telling me there's a chance.
You're telling me there's a chance. What was all that 1 in a million talk?
Yeah.
So those are our picks. Again, Ryan 15-1 last week. I went 14-2. We're looking good with these picks, guys. And if you're telling us with these picks, you're welcome. If you're telling me with the parlays, I'm really sorry. You should have learned your lesson 4 weeks in. Like you should have.
You're gonna show them anyway, though.
I'm gonna show them anyway. They're gonna show up here. I'm still making them. I just realized that my name's been Paul this whole show. So that's right. They're Paul's picks. This has been Paul this whole time. Paul sucks. I know. But here are our parlays, and for me, I don't think I did this week 1 or 2, but I think starting early in the season, I've done a Thursday night parlay, and so for me, again, I have the under in that matchup. There's nothing that I looked at as far as picking things. I was like, oh, I love that line. Like, I was like, So I did do some alternate bets for this one. Again, Bo Nix. 200 plus passing yards. Again, I have the under, so I personally, I hope what you say holds true and that this game just goes crazy off the rails and every over hits. As far as Justin Herbert goes, did not have a single rushing yard last week due to his ankle injury. But I think when you're talking about opening up the passing attack, there are going to be times where he's back in the pocket and feels like he might want to take off and see some lanes open. So I do think he beats that because he has done it 3 of the last 5 weeks, and that includes last weekend where he didn't run the ball at all. And Cortland Sutton 5+ receptions. I feel like out of those 3 bets, that one's money. So give me that all day. As far as my lock, listen, guys, I gotta try and win some money here at some point, and I like all 4 of these guys matchups this week. Again, I like Sam Darnold and Justin Jefferson. That hookup has seemed to have gotten better since the last time I bet on Justin Jefferson. So hopefully I don't jinx it again. Jamar Chase, same thing. I think that he's just playing hot right now out of his mind. Amon St. Brown, I like his Amon St. Brown. I like his matchup against the Bears. Expect him to get into the end zone. And Puka Nacua, like you said, the way the Rams have been playing these last 2 weeks, to think that they're not going to go and just take care of business is ridiculous to me. So give me Nacua to get an anytime touchdown as well.
Yeah, so for mine, we're doing our regular lock of the week. James Conner, I like him right now for 80 or more rushing yards. Carolina's allowing 218 yards per game over the last 3 games. They're just abysmal against the run, so give me James Conner there. Keenan Allen, I like him for 60 or more yards at this point. The Lions are allowing 261 yards per game over the last 3. Keenan Allen seems to have emerged as the most consistent target for Caleb Williams, so I like him for 60 or more receiving yards. And then Sam Darnold, you just talked about that Justin Jefferson connection. I like him for 250 or more passing yards. The Jets are allowing 263 per game over their last 3. So give me that one. That's easy money. And then for the Bills one, I'm going back to the well here with the guys I've been riding all season. This particular parlay build would have hit in, I think it was 7 of the games this year that the team has played. So the majority of games, Josh Allen, 225 or more passing yards. James Cook, 60 or more rushing yards. He showed out last week. I think he's going to have another big game this week. The New England Patriots are giving up, fun fact, 124 yards per game over their last 3. So real struggle bus for them. And I think they're going to ride Cook early, try to get a lead. And then Khalil Shakir, I mean, this guy is automatic 5 receptions a game. He's hit this in every single game he's played except for 1, and that was the San Francisco snow game. So the only game he didn't hit was that one. So I like him for 5 or more receptions. So that's my Bills build of the week.
All right, and then we move to our props of the week, and I believe I have a Josh Allen prop in this one also. Like you have him for 225. I'm going to bump it up a little bit to 265. Give me Josh Allen to, again, they're going to try to bump up his MVP numbers as well, which is fine. Everybody does it. That's okay. And you
Hey, Lamar went for 5 touchdowns against the Giants, right?
That's right. So keep doing it because now all of a sudden now
stats matter.
Yep. Even though last year they didn't matter, and then going into the game last week, everyone in the world was like, well, if Josh Allen plays well and they beat the Lions, then it's a lock. It's not a lock anymore. Like it's like, oh, we gotta say there's someone in the mix. You talked about Bijan Robinson earlier in the stream. I think he's gonna go off and have a big day as well. And then also Aaron Jones. You talked a little about Sam Darnold. I think that if they get a lead early, they're gonna rely on Aaron Jones late in this game to close it out. So give me Aaron Jones 75 plus rushing yards.
Yeah, for me, I had again, Joe and I don't talk before the show in terms of what our picks are. So Jonathan Taylor, he likes Jonathan Taylor to have a big game this week. I like him too, 80 or more rushing yards for him. As beyond that, the Titans are just abysmal against the run this season. They're abysmal against everything, and I think Jonathan Taylor's got an axe to grind after last week's gaffe. Justin Herbert, 250 plus passing yards. We talked about Denver. They're allowing 312 yards per game over their last 3 games. I like Justin Herbert. This is a must win for the Chargers, so I like him to show out. And then the last one, Mark Andrews. He's caught a touchdown in 3 straight games. The Steelers are allowing 2.9 passing touchdowns per game over the last 3. Mark Andrews seems to be the primary target again in Baltimore. So I like him to get into the end zone this week. So those are the props of the week as well. And looking to have a positive week again. I had a little bit of a down week this past week. Joe's just living in down world.
I just love it down here. love it down
The funny thing is, like, as down as Joe has been, a lot of your picks I've liked, right? It's just like this is the nature of the sports betting, right? That's why they call it gambling, because if you knew what was going to happen, Vegas wouldn't be a thing. So
that's right. That's right. The casinos have lights for a reason.
There, it's just the luck's been on your side this season.
Yeah, I've tried. You know what? It is what it is. What can you do? Like, I see you pick Justin Herbert, and I'm like, yeah, Justin Herbert is going to go off this week. Do you know why? Because I picked him last week to go off, and he didn't. So he has to go off this week, of course. So it just makes sense. It's logical. But that is it for us. That's going to be week 16 of the NFL season. Again, only a couple weeks left. We will be joining you during the playoffs, and we do have a special schedule lined up next week because, again, Wednesday's Christmas. I want Ryan to enjoy his time with his family as much as he wants me to enjoy my family and not have to worry about doing a stream. So we'll have a special schedule next week as well. Besides that, I don't know about you, but maybe Christmas Eve you're staying up late putting together for the kids.
Yeah, I'm a dad, man. Dads unite. It's build night when you turn into Santa's workshop downstairs. So. And you can't start until the kids go to bed, and they don't go to bed at 10 o'clock on Christmas. So.
That's right. So it's gonna be a fun Christmas Eve as always. But it's worth it to see the kids' faces. Whatever you guys want to believe, you believe it. But if you don't join us for your Christmas week, we understand. Have a great Christmas, happy holidays to you, and don't forget to join us live right here Sunday for the game between the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots. Ryan, you're gonna be at that game?
No, I am not going to be at that game. I am in San Diego this week, so I am family time from the time I land tomorrow late night, early Friday morning, and it is family time until after Christmas. So got rid of the tickets for this week, which I'm okay with a 4:30 game. Probably hop on and do some post game and stuff with the guys on hashtag. So
sounds good. So we'll see you then. But until then, you guys take care. Have a great week.
Go Bills.